My pack killed me. They were supposed to be my family to protect me, but they sacrificed me to the rogues to buy 30 nights of peace because there was no one to defend me, no one to stand for me. They took advantage of an orphan whose parents died in a rogue raid when I was 6. The day I died, the last thing I remember before I died was the smell. Not pain, not fear, though both were there, sharp and overwhelming, but the smell. Rain-soaked earth and wet iron and my own terror, metallic and sharp in the back of my throat. I was 10 years old the day my pack sacrificed me to save themselves. 10 years old when they bound my wrists with rough hemp rope that bit into my skin. When they dragged me through the storm to the border stones in the dark, their torches sputtering and dying in the rain, lightning casting shadows that looked like claws. When they tied me to the offering stone, cold, so cold beneath my spine, mud seeping through my thin nightdress, and spoke words about honor and necessity while thunder drowned out my screams. I remember crying for my mother, even though she'd been dead for 4 years. I remember the beta's son, Rowan Whitlock, 15 years old, with storm gray eyes, trying to stop it. His father and 3 warriors beating him bloody, his nose breaking with a crack I heard, even through the rain, telling him this was duty, not cruelty. That one orphan girl for 30 nights of safety was mercy, not murder. I remember understanding in that horrible moment of clarity that comes right before the end, that I was going to die and that no one was coming to save me. I remember the fangs. My name is Frances Thorne, and I am the girl they fed to the monsters to buy their peace. The moon goddess brought me back, not as the frightened orphan nobody they threw away, but as something they could never have imagined. This is the story of how I died at 10 years old and how I returned at 18 to face the pack that murdered me. But more than that, this is the story of Rowan, the boy who tried to save me and failed, the man who's been haunted by that failure every day since, the beta who never took a mate because his heart belonged to a dead girl. This is the story of how death couldn't kill the mate bond, and how sometimes the most broken people are the only ones who can heal each other. Let me take you back to the beginning, to the day I learned being nobody means you're expendable, to my last birthday, to the day I turned 10. Okay, first things first. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button. You'll thank me later. Now, real talk. Comment your location and what time it is for you. Are you under the covers at 2 a.m. on your lunch break? I need to know who's here for Frances's story because it hits different depending on when you find it. Let's get into it. I woke up on my 10th birthday to the sound of thunder. Not distant thunder, not warning thunder, the kind that shakes the walls and rattles your bones, the kind that means the storm is already here. I sat up fast on my cot, a thin mattress on the floor of the pack house basement where they kept the orphans and unwanted wolves. 8 of us crammed into a room meant for storage, sleeping on stone floors, sharing moth-eaten blankets that smelled like mildew. Rain was already leaking through the high window, pooling in the corner where little May slept. "What's happening?" Finn whispered from his spot by the door. He was 11, an Omega like me, but at least he had a cousin in the pack who remembered his name sometimes. I had no one. "I don't know," I said, but I was lying. I did know, or at least I had a terrible feeling in my stomach, a cold dread that told me something bad was about to happen, something that had to do with me. The door slammed open so hard it cracked against the stone wall. Elder Blackwell stood there, his face hard as the border stones at the edge of our territory. Behind him, 4 pack warriors, already soaked from the rain, already armed. "Frances Thorne," he said, and his voice was flat, empty of everything except duty. I woke to silver, not the cold silver of the border stones, not the silver of moonlight through rain. This was living silver, warm and humming with power, grass that glowed beneath my fingertips like starlight made solid. I pushed myself up, no pain, no torn throat, no blood, and found myself kneeling in a meadow that stretched forever in every direction. 2 moons hung in the sky, not one, 2, one pale as bone, one dark as obsidian, circling each other in an endless dance. And at my sides, 2 wolves. No, not wolves. Something more. They were the size of ponies, one pure white with eyes like molten gold, one midnight, black with eyes like dying stars. They pressed against me, warm and solid and real, and I buried my face in white fur and sobbed. "Hello, little one." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere. I looked up through my tears and saw her. The moon goddess was tall. impossibly tall. Her skin shifted like the surface of water under moonlight. Her hair fell in waves of silver and shadow, and her eyes were full of stars. Actual stars, burning and ancient and kind. "They killed you," she said, and there was rage in those words. "Not at me, for me. They bound your wrists and fed you to monsters for a peace that was already bought. The rogues were paid mercenaries, Francis, hired by your pack's enemies to test their courage. You were never needed. You died for nothing but their cowardice." The words should have broken me. Maybe they would have, if I'd had anything left to break. "I can offer you peace," the goddess continued, kneeling so we were eye to eye. "Eternal rest here in the celestial wilds. No more pain, no more fear, no more rejection, or..." Her eyes blazed brighter. "I can send you back as my silver Luna, my hand in the mortal world. You will have power they cannot imagine. You will have justice." I thought of Rowan's broken nose, his screams as, "Sword!" they beat him for trying to save me. I thought of the other orphans, still sleeping on stone floors, still expendable. "Send me back," I whispered. The goddess smiled, and it was terrible and beautiful. "Then let us begin." 8 years. 8 years in a place where time moved differently, where a day could be a week and a week could be an hour. The white wolf, Lumen, the goddess called her, taught me to run, to hunt, to move like liquid moonlight. The black wolf, Nox, taught me to fight, to kill, to be the thing monsters feared in the dark. But the goddess herself taught me power. She taught me to call moonfire, silver flames that burned cold and left no ash, only truth. I learned to strip the shift from a wolf with a single word, to leave them human and helpless. I learned the Luna voice, the command that no wolf could resist, the voice that could bring an entire pack to its knees. "You will see into hearts," she said one night, pressing her palm to my chest. "You will know truth from lies, loyalty from deception, love from duty." Love. I was maybe 12, still small but getting taller, when she told me about the mate bond. "Rowan Whitlock felt it the moment he saw you on that stone," she said softly. 15 years old, and his wolf screamed mine while they tied you down. He's carried that bond like a chain around his heart ever since. Guilt and love twisted so tight, he can't tell where one ends and the other begins. I didn't know what to do with that, didn't know if I wanted to, so I trained harder. By 14, I could call lightning from clear skies. By 16, I could walk through solid walls of moonlight. By 17, I barely recognized myself in the celestial pools, tall where I'd been small, lean muscle where there'd been jutting ribs, hair that had grown long and wild with streaks of silver running through the brown-like veins of starlight. I looked dangerous. I looked fierce. I looked like someone who could make them pay. "No," the goddess said sharply, reading my thoughts. We were sparring, her moving like water while I moved like storm winds, Lumen and Nox watching from the silver grass. "You will not return for revenge, Francis Thorne." "Then why?" I demanded, moonfire crackling around my fist. "Why give me this power? Why send me back at all?" She moved faster than thought, faster than moonlight, and suddenly her hand was over my heart. Heat bloomed there, searing and perfect, and when she pulled away, a glowing crescent moon marked my skin, right over my sternum. "You will return for justice," she said, and her voice was midnight and iron. "You will return to protect the ones who come after you. You will return to build something better from the ashes of their cowardice." She touched my face with impossible gentleness. "And you will return for him, for the boy who tried to save you, for the man who's been dying slowly ever since." The night before I left, 8 years to the day after I died, the goddess brought me to the edge of her realm. Reality shimmered there like heat waves, and through it I could see my pack's territory, rain falling, thunder rolling, a storm exactly like the one that had killed me. "Are you ready?" she asked. Lumen and Nox pressed against my legs, solid and eternal. I touched the crescent moon on my chest and felt power sing through my veins. "I'm ready." The portal opened like a wound in the world, all lightning and silver fire. I stepped through with my wolves at my sides, and reality swallowed me whole. The moon. Goddess's last words followed me through. "Show them what happens when they throw away something precious." I smiled in the dark. I would. The great hall was blazing with light and laughter when I arrived. Chandeliers dripping with crystals, tables sagging under the weight of roasted meat and honeyed wine, wolves in their finest clothes dancing and drinking and celebrating. Celebrating 8 years of peace, 8 years bought with my blood. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it shook the windows. No one noticed. They were too drunk, too happy, too relieved that the tribute they'd paid had worked. Elder Blackwell stood at the head table, glass raised high, his voice booming over the music. To the sacrifice that saved us all, to 30 nights that became 30 months that became 8 years of prosperity, to the peace the doors exploded inward, not opened, exploded, hinges shrieking, wood splintering, rain and wind howling into the hall like a living thing. The music died, glasses froze halfway to lips, every head turned. I stood in the doorway, soaked to the bone, hair plastered to my face and neck, water streaming off me in rivulets. Silver streaks caught the chandelier light like lightning frozen in my hair. My eyes, I knew what they looked like now. I'd seen them in the celestial pools glowed with moonfire, silver and terrible and cold. And beside me, Lumen and Nox, no longer pony-sized. Bear-sized now, massive and otherworldly. White and black fur rippling with power that made the air around them shimmer. Their eyes burned, gold and starlight, fixed on the crowd like they were deciding which throat to tear first. Someone screamed. A glass shattered on the floor. I took one step forward, then another. Water squelched in my boots. My thin dress, the same one I'd died in, now remade from moonlight and memory, clung to me like a second skin. The crescent moon on my chest blazed through the fabric, bright enough to cast shadows. "Francis," someone whispered. A young woman, maybe 20, staring at me like I was a ghost. I didn't recognize her. "Francis Thorne?" I smiled, and it wasn't kind. "Hello, Pack." My voice carried through the hall like a bell, like thunder, like judgment. Elder Blackwell stumbled backward, his wine glass slipping from his fingers. It shattered. The sound was very loud in the sudden silence. "You're dead," he said hoarsely. "We saw the rogues. Kneel." One word. One single word in the Luna voice, the voice the moon goddess had forged in my throat over 8 years of brutal training. Divine command wrapped in syllables, power that no wolf could resist. Every single wolf in the hall dropped. Knees hit the floor like thunder. Some tried to fight it. I saw the strain in their faces, the way their muscles locked and trembled, but it was useless. You don't fight the moon. You don't fight gravity. Glasses shattered as they fell from nerveless hands. Plates crashed. A woman sobbed. I walked through them slowly, Lumen and Nox flanking me, their paws silent on the stone floor. Wolves whimpered as I passed. Some couldn't meet my eyes. Some stared at me in horror. Some in wonder. I stopped in front of the elders' table. 5 of them, all on their knees now, faces white with terror. Elder Blackwell, Elder Thorne, no relation. Just a name we'd shared. Elder Reeves, Elder Hightower, Elder Cross. "Confess?" I said softly. "We don't..." Blackwell started. Moonfire crackled around my hand. Just a flicker, just enough to show them what I could do. He flinched so hard he nearly fell over. "The rogues were paid mercenaries," I said, each word precise and cold. "You knew before you tied me to that stone. You knew I wasn't needed. You knew the peace was already bought. Confess now." Silence. Then Elder Reeves broke, tears streaming down his weathered face. "It's true," he choked out. "The enemy pack, they hired the rogues to test us. We'd already negotiated the treaty. We didn't need..." His voice cracked. "We didn't need to send you, but we were afraid. Afraid if we didn't go through with it, the rogues would tell everyone we'd been willing to sacrifice a child. So we... You killed me anyway," I finished. "To save your pride." The hall erupted. Gasps, shouts, someone vomiting in the corner. Parents pulling children close, warriors staring at their leaders with betrayal written across their faces. But I wasn't looking at them anymore. I was looking at him. Rowan Whitlock stood near the back of the hall, dressed in black like he was attending a funeral instead of a feast. He hadn't been drinking, hadn't been dancing. He looked like he hadn't slept in 8 years, hollow-eyed and gaunt, a scar across his cheekbone that hadn't been there before. Beta's cords hung around his neck, but they looked like a noose. And the moment our eyes met, the bond completed. I felt it snap into place like a key turning in a lock, like the final piece of a puzzle sliding home. 8 years of half-formed connection, of ghostly echoes and phantom pulls, suddenly blazing into full, burning, undeniable certainty. Mine. Mate. Forever. He gasped like I'd punched him, stumbled, went down on one knee even though I hadn't commanded it. His hand pressed to his chest, right over his heart, and his face, God, his face. Francis, he whispered, and his voice broke on my name. You're alive. I walked to him slowly. The crowd parted. Like water. Lumen and Knox stayed at the elders' table, watching, waiting. I stopped in front of Rowan, looked down at him kneeling there, tears streaming down his face, reaching for me with a shaking hand like he was afraid I'd disappear if he touched me. You tried to save me once, I said quietly, echoing the words he'd screamed 8 years ago as they beat him bloody in the rain. His breath hitched. I failed. I failed you. Francis, I caught his hand before he could finish the apology. The moment our skin touched, the bond flared so bright I saw silver light reflecting in his eyes. He made a sound, something between a sob and a prayer, and held on like I was the only solid thing in the world. The pack was silent now, watching, waiting, terrified. I looked at them over Rowan's bent head, at the elders who'd killed me, at the warriors who'd carried me to the stones, at the pack who'd let it happen, and smiled. Tonight, I whispered, loud enough for everyone to hear, they learn what the moon does to cowards. Rowan's hand tightened in mine, not pulling me back, holding on, ready for whatever came next. I led them to the border stones in the rain. All of them. Every single wolf in the pack, from the eldest warrior to the smallest child. They followed because they had no choice. The Luna voice still thrummed in their bones, divine command that wouldn't let them turn away. But some followed willingly. I could see it in their faces, in the way they walked. Shame, grief, the desperate need to make this right. The storm had grown worse. Lightning split the sky every few seconds, illuminating the clearing in stark white flashes. The offering stone stood in the center, exactly where I'd died, still stained dark despite 8 years of rain. Blood doesn't wash away that easily. I stopped in front of it. Lumen and Knox took positions on either side, massive and glowing, their eyes like beacons in the dark. Rowan stood at my right hand, soaked through, his presence steady and solid. He hadn't let go of my hand since the hall, hadn't tried to defend his pack, just held on and followed. Here, I said, my voice carrying over the thunder. This is where you killed me. This is where you decided one life was worth less than your pride. This is where it ends. The pack huddled in a semicircle, rain streaming down their faces. Some were crying. Some looked sick. The elders stood at the front, forced there by my command, trembling. I'm giving you a choice, I said. Lightning flashed, turning my silver streaks white. Accept my laws or lose your wolves forever. Silence. Just rain and thunder and 500 hearts beating too fast. The laws are simple, I continued. No child is ever expendable. Not orphans, not omegas, not the weak. Every child will be fed, clothed, educated, protected. Orphans will have guardians assigned, not just storage rooms to sleep in. My voice hardened. The Elder Council is dissolved. Your new leaders will be chosen by merit and vote, not age and tradition. And if any wolf, suggests sacrificing the innocent to save themselves, they lose their wolf permanently. That's, Elder Blackwell started. Non-negotiable. I cut him off. Moonfire blazed around my free hand, silver flames that cast dancing shadows across the stone. Those are the terms. Accept them and keep your wolves. Refuse and I'll strip the shift from every single one of you right now. Leave you human and helpless for the rest of your lives. You can't, someone shouted from the crowd. I raised my hand. The moonfire blazed brighter, hotter, and suddenly every wolf in the clearing felt it. The power thrumming just beneath their skin, the way I could reach in and tear their wolves away with a single word. Several people cried out. A woman collapsed. I can, I said quietly. The moon goddess gave me this power for a reason. She gave me a choice too, peace or justice. I chose justice. Now you choose. For a long moment, nothing. Then someone stepped forward from the crowd. A young warrior, maybe 22 with a scar across his jaw. He dropped to one knee in the mud. I accept, he said, voice rough. I was 15 he swallowed hard. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to stop it, but I should have tried. I accept your laws, Silver Luna. Another wolf stepped forward, then another, then 10 more. Families, warriors, omegas who remembered scrubbing floors beside me. One by one, they knelt in the rain, mud soaking through their clothes, and swore themselves to the new order. Some out of guilt, some out of terror, some out of genuine belief that this was right, that this was necessary, that we'd been broken for a long time and needed to be remade. I watched them kneel and felt something crack open in my chest. Not revenge, not satisfaction. Something gentler, something that hurt worse. Hope. The elders stay standing, I said when over half the pack had knelt. I turned to face them. Blackwell, Thorne, Reeves, Hightower, Cross. 5 old men who decided my life was worth less than their reputation. You don't get a choice. Blackwell's face went white. Please. I spoke the word the goddess had taught me. The word that severed the connection between human and wolf, that cut the bond that made us shifters. It felt like ripping silk, like breaking glass, like watching something beautiful shatter. They screamed. All 5 of them screamed and collapsed, convulsing in the mud as their wolves were torn away. It wasn't quick. The goddess had made sure I knew how to make it last, how to let them feel every second of the loss. They howled like dying animals, clawing at their chests, and when it was finally over, they lay there gasping, human and broken and hollow. You get to live, I said, looking down at them, but you'll never shift again. Never run with the pack. Never feel your wolf. You're human now. Permanently. Rowan's hand tightened in mine. When I looked at him, his eyes were bright with unshed tears, but he nodded. Accepting it, understanding it. I stand with her, he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. He raised our joined hands. Frances Thorne is my mate, my Luna. I failed her once. I won't fail her again. I'll help her rebuild what we broke. I'll protect what we should have protected from the start. The pack murmured. Some in approval, some in relief. But not everyone. No! Alpha Whitlock, Rowan's father, the man who'd beaten his own son for trying to save me, burst from the crowd. He was massive. 50 years old, but still powerful, still dangerous. He shifted mid-leap, gray wolf with amber eyes, fangs bared, going straight for my throat. He didn't make it. Lumen and Nox moved like white and black lightning. They hit him in mid-air, slammed him into the ground so hard I heard bones crack. He shifted back human immediately, gasping, their massive paws pinning his shoulders and hips. Nox's teeth were an inch from his throat. I walked over slowly, looked down at the alpha who'd let me die. Kill me, he snarled. Just do it. I won't serve you. I won't. You'll live, I said. I called Moonfire to my palm, shaped it into a brand, a single word in the old language. Coward. But not here. I pressed the brand to his forearm. He screamed as silver fire burned through skin, leaving the word seared permanently into his flesh, glowing faintly even after I pulled away. You're exiled, I said. Forever. Cross our borders again and I'll let Nox finish what he started. Now run. Lumen and Nox released him. He scrambled up, cradling his branded arm, staring at me with hate and horror and something that might have been shame. Then he ran, disappeared into the storm. He didn't look back. Dawn was breaking when the last wolf swore their oath. The rain had stopped. Golden light spilled across the clearing, turned the mud to amber and the blood-stained stone to rose. The pack knelt before me, smaller now, wounded, but maybe better, and said the words the goddess had given me. I swear to the Silver Luna, to protect the weak, to shelter the orphaned, to never let fear make us monsters. I touched each head as they spoke, left a trace of moonfire, a blessing, a promise. Rowan stood beside me the entire time, his hand in mine, his voice joining theirs. When it was done, when the sun had fully risen and the pack had filed away to clean up and rest and process, he pulled me close. Thank you, he whispered into my hair, for coming back, for choosing justice instead of revenge, for giving us a chance to be better. I closed my eyes and let myself lean into him, let myself be held. Don't thank me yet, I murmured. The hard part's just beginning. But for the first time in 8 years, for the first time since I died, I thought maybe, just maybe, we could do it. we could rebuild something worth protecting. 5. 10 years later, the garden bloomed where I died. White marble replaced the bloodstained offering stone, carved with names, not just mine, but every orphan who'd ever been forgotten, every child who'd ever been deemed expendable. Moonflowers grew in silver spirals around the memorial, their petals glowing softly even in daylight, a gift from the goddess herself. And everywhere, always, the sound of laughter. Children ran through the path, their small hands clutching wildflowers, their voices high and bright with joy. Orphans, most of them, the ones we'd saved, the ones who would never know what it meant to sleep on stone floors or cry themselves to sleep wondering if anyone remembered their names. They wore clean clothes and had full bellies and guardians who loved them fiercely, who'd been chosen not by blood but by heart. I stood at the garden's edge watching them play and felt Rowan's arms slide around my waist from behind. He rested his chin on my shoulder and I leaned back into him, solid and warm and alive. "She's going to give Knox a heart attack," he murmured, amusement threading through his voice. I followed his gaze and couldn't help but smile. Our daughter, Sarah, 5 years old, with my brown hair streaked through with silver, Rowan's storm gray eyes, and absolutely no sense of self-preservation, was attempting to climb onto Knox's back. The massive black wolf lay sprawled in the sun, long-suffering and patient as only an immortal celestial guardian could be, while Sarah tugged at his ears and demanded he take her flying. "Knox loves her," I said. "He'd let her paint him pink if she asked." "Don't give her ideas." Lumen sat nearby, white fur gleaming, watching over a group of younger children with her golden eyes. 2 toddlers had fallen asleep against her side, tiny fists clutching her fur. She'd been known to carry lost pups home in her mouth when they wandered too far during festivals, gentle as a mother with her own cubs. 10 years. 10 years since I'd walked back through that storm. 10 years of rebuilding, of watching wounds slowly heal, of learning that justice was harder and more painful and infinitely more worthwhile than revenge could ever be. The pack had changed. We'd elected new leaders, young wolves who understood that strength meant protecting the vulnerable, not sacrificing them. We'd built schools and orphanages and safe houses. We'd opened our borders to lone wolves and outcasts, to anyone who needed sanctuary. Some of the old warriors had left, unable to accept the new order. Most had stayed. Most had learned. Rowan had learned to lead with mercy instead of a duty. I learned to trust again, slowly, painfully, one day at a time. Together, we learned that love could be built from ashes if you were willing to bleed for it. "They're gathering," Rowan said softly. I looked up. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. Pack members were filing into the garden, carrying candles and flowers, their faces solemn, but not sad. The anniversary. 18 years since the Woi'ura night they killed me. 10 years since I came back. Every year we gathered here at midnight. Every year I lit a single flame in remembrance, not just for the girl I'd been, but for every mistake, every failure, every moment of cowardice that had led to that night. We remembered, so we never forget. We grieved so we could grow. Sarah ran to us, breathless and flushed, grabbing both our hands. "Mama, Papa, is it time? Can I help with the flowers this year?" I knelt down, brushed silver-streaked hair from her face. She had no idea what this place had been. She'd grown up running through a garden where children had once been tied down to die. That was the point. That was the victory. "You can help," I told her gently. "But first, you have to listen to the story." "About the girl who came back from the stars?" Her eyes went wide. She had heard it a dozen times, but never tired of it. "About the girl who came back from the stars," Rowan confirmed, scooping her up, "and the boy who never stopped believing she would." Midnight came soft and silver. The pack stood in concentric circles around the memorial, candles flickering in their hands, children held close. I stepped forward alone, Lumen and Knox flanking me like they had that first night, and called Moonfire to my palm. The silver flame danced there, cold and bright and eternal. I spoke the names carved into the marble, all the forgotten ones, all the lost ones, and the flame grew with each name until it blazed like a star. Then I released it. It rose into the night sky, fracturing into 1,000 smaller lights that drifted down like snow, like blessing, like promise. The children stepped forward with their flowers. Sarah went first, solemn and careful, placing a bundle of moonflowers at the memorial's base. Others followed, until the marble was buried in white blooms that glowed faintly in the dark. When the ceremony ended, when the pack had drifted away to their homes and their beds, Rowan and I stayed. Just us and the wolves and the quiet. I still have nightmares, I said. I don't know why I chose that moment to finally admit it. Maybe because it felt safe. Maybe because I was tired of carrying it alone. About the stone, about the rain, about dying and no one coming. Rowan turned to me, his face stricken. Francis, but then I wake up, I continued, and you're there, holding me, like you're trying to make up for every second you couldn't. He pulled me close, arms wrapping around me exactly the way they had. That first night in the hall, when the bond had snapped into place and he'd held on like I was the only solid thing in the world. He still held me like that, every single day. I failed you once, he whispered into my hair. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I never fail you again. I tilted my head back, looked up at him under the full moon. His face was older now, weathered by leadership and love, but his eyes were still that same storm gray, still looking at me like I was something precious and impossible. You didn't fail me, I said. You tried. That's what mattered. That's what the goddess saw. That's why she sent me back to you. I pressed my palm to his chest, right over his heart, and called Moonfire. Not to hurt, not to command, just to connect. Silver light bloomed between us, warm and soft, wrapping around our joined hands like ribbons. The mate bond blazed bright enough to cast shadows, and Rowan gasped, his free hand coming up to cradle my face. I love you, he breathed. Then, now, always. Always, I echoed. We renewed the bond the way we had on our mating night, with words and moonfire, and the stars bearing witness. The silver flames rose around us like soft fireworks, like celebration, like the universe itself rejoicing. Lumen and Nox howled, long and haunting and beautiful, and somewhere, in the distance, the pack howled back. When the light finally faded, I rested my forehead against Rowan's and smiled. They sacrificed me at 10 to save themselves. The moon goddess had other plans. She gave me power and purpose and justice, gave me wolves made of starlight and a mate who loved me even when I was dead. She gave me a second chance to build something better from blood and ashes. And love, quiet, stubborn, impossible love, turned out to be the strongest magic of all.